There are going to be winners and losers in decentralized finance. The winners there will write the rules, and they will give the right donations to the right politicians, and they will promise the right jobs to the current regulators who one day want to go work for them, and they will wrap the apparatus of government around some particular business model.
Listen, I think that's why we have to, under the Trump administration, is be at the tip of the spear.
So that's what everybody's talking about.
Right.
So who's going to win that race?
Who is going to win that race? I think it is.
All right, I'm here with Devon Archer, and I'm frustrated that no one has asked him the tough questions. Let me tell you a little secret about politics in America. Polling is completely dead. Polling is obsolete, vanquished, and in many ways has been replaced by a lot of the analysis that you see on markets. And you can see that market analysis on Polymarket. Just to think, the Biden Justice Department was going after the CEO of Polymarket a year and a half ago. Now you've got the CEO of Polymarket at the White House with Donald Trump, because this is changing the way people are looking at different prospects, and you need to go and get a Polymarket account. I have a Polymarket account. I love keeping up with the news and seeing how the way I'm informed can end up benefiting me. And if you're going to be informed anyway, if you're going to be taking in all of the smart information, not just the dummy TV, well, then you need a Polymarket account too. That's the way to make sure that, you know what, you can have a little more action riding on the stuff that's cooking in politics, news, sports, entertainment, and it's awesome. Check out Polymarket. He's 50 years old. What is your workout routine?
My workout routine. So I am, I'm at the base, I'm a lifter. Okay. So I was, growing up completely focused on football, lacrosse, being the best athlete.
What position did you play?
I played, I was running back in football.
A white guy?
Yeah. A white guy.
Running back?
I was.
You had to have been the only one.
I was a good blocker. But I was a safety.
Because usually you put like the toughest black kid as the running back. Well, the toughest black kid is the quarterback. The second toughest black kid is the running back. And then both of those kids play safety, because then that's how you contain the runaway offense that drives like under 12 football.
Okay. Long Island football. We had Carlos, who was African American. He was our tailback. I was I was the power eye back. I was a great blocker. I was.
Were you the fullback or the?
No, not the fullback. I was the power eye back. So we ran a 3-back, like a backfield with 3 backs, fullback, tailback, and a power back. I was the power back. I would get,
so he would come around on the wing and get the ball, and your job was to go and lock up some middle linebacker,
demolish the defensive end.
Now the story checks out.
Exactly. Yeah, that was basically my job. But it was, I did it well. I did it efficiently, and I was recognized by the, by New York State for it. So I was pretty proud.
All right, so you get the lifting routine in high school.
Yeah. So lifting starts at, started wrestling in elementary school, junior high school.
What the fuck is elementary school wrestling? It was, by the way, we just called that recess. Elementary school wrestling?
Yes.
Dude,
there was a coach. There was a really famous coach at in our high school program, in North Shore High School.
Yeah.
Kraus. I forget Coach Kraus. And he was an avid wrestler, and and
he goes into the pitch to the PTA, and he's like, "Tell you what, I can get these elementary schoolers to wrestle." And the moms are like, "You know what? We're all right with it. Exactly. We're gonna go. That's gonna be our wine hour."
Yeah, my dad was a huge athlete, college athlete. He was a All-American football player, CW Post. He was drafted tryout for the Cowboys and ended up going to the Vietnam War. He ended up serving a high event pass, but he was an incredible athlete. I think they had 3 or 4 folks out of his college that ended up at the Broncos, Cowboys, very elite. So he was a pure athlete and got me into wrestling early, got me into lacrosse early, got me into not really football because there was not like Pop Warner, but started wrestling. And then by the time I was in junior high, they got me lifting, and that was it. And so basically I started lifting, and it's a
So
pattern you don't break.
So in elementary school they didn't start that.
No.
Just the wrestling,
wrestling,
but not the lifting.
Exactly.
Okay. So you get going on that, and you maintain it through the 50s.
Yeah.
To 50.
250.
Right.
But again, as I've
because I've also started a lifting routine. And if I make it like 7 days without walking around like I have Parkinson's, it's a feat. But you maintain it the whole way through.
I did maintain it the whole way through. And, I've gone through, ups and downs in it. I think that, now that I'm 50,
do you listen to music when you lift?
I do. No, recently, mostly podcasts.
Really?
Yeah.
See, because I got to have like, and when I say lifting, I mean, I'm talking about like the weight sequence that you typically see in a 50-year-old lady's Pilates class, not moving any serious iron.
Yeah.
But I got to have the Metallica, the AC/DC.
Listen,
what's your go-to podcast?
So I would go. So my go-tos are, it's so typical of a 50-year-old man. It's Rogan and Tucker. And obviously I'm a fan of Tucker because that's, where I had my coming out party. But when I do listen to music, I listen to UK rap. So you
are the whitest man I've ever met.
Exactly. So I pride myself with my son that I actually discovered.
How many pair of boat shoes do you own?
Several. No, I pride myself that I discovered the Sprinter vans. So
all right, so lifting's your thing. What my wife tells me is that is actually the secret to keeping a good body. Obviously, I don't listen to her, but she says that if you would take less of the time on the high rep and put a little more time into the high intensity, that pays big dividends.
I think. Listen, I listen to other than Tucker, other than Rogan, I listen to a ton of different fitness advisors and try and get my information from everyone else, but. At the end of the day, my father would tell me when I was as a little kid, just growing up, he's like, resistance builds strength. And there's nothing else that builds strength other than resistance. And then,
by the way, I totally subscribe to that as someone who doesn't work out nearly enough.
Right.
I actually think resistance does develop strength in politics, in culture, in art,
right,
and I guess in working out too.
In everything. There's a great story about Arnold Schwarzenegger. He was on some podcast or it wasn't even. It was before a podcast. It was probably Barbara Walters or something, and he would say, Barbara Walters or Dr. Phil or one of these great interviewers is like, Arnold, you came from Austria, you came from nothing, you were, you became Mr. Austria, you became Mr. Olympia. You became a great movie star, the biggest movie star in the world. You became the governor of California. What is the hardest thing you've ever done? And he said, my calves.
Yeah. Which definitely was easier for him given all the steroids.
Right. That's true.
And I mean, I remember when Arnold was running for governor of California, and I'm a Florida man. I never even been to California, but just like the thought that a Republican could win in California
right.
in those like early 2000s years. The whole country is like rooting for Arnold. And then they come out with the crazy women stories about him.
Right.
And you're like, oh man, he's the Terminator. Oh, this guy wasn't doing anything like that. He's married to Maria Shriver. He's married to a Kennedy. When's that ever turned out bad for somebody? And he goes out there on the speaking tour right before his primary against Tom McClintock, who really is Tom McClintock. It has a lovely brain, but I think like a deeply terrible soul. And Tom, thanks for being such a terrible soul. But anyway, he's running against Arnold, and Arnold goes out there and he's like, I know there's all these allegations about me and women. And one thing we know is where there's smoke, there's fire. And I'm watching this and I'm thinking, that's probably not the most political response, but he prevailed anyway. So look, here's the deal. I'm here with Devon Archer. And if you want to know all the stuff about Devon's involvement with Hunter Biden and Joe Biden and all that stuff, there's a great podcast he made with Tucker Carlson that goes into incredible detail on that. I've watched it. I encourage you to do so as well. We also had a terrific interview on One America News that delved into those issues, and you can get the OAN live app. I suggest you go to OANN.com and get that live app, and you can get into that. What I'm more interested in talking with Devon about is actually how somebody is such a savant in the deal making space that they find themselves where he's found himself in history, and how somebody who's been through those moments thinks about the future. So you were in Davos, and one of the things that I analyzed was the amount of the Davos attention that was around the future of a tokenized economy. And we were chatting about that a little earlier, and I was like wondering what you think emerges out of all of the richest and most powerful people in the world saying that the future of commerce is in this tokenization.
So it is interesting, because I think that the elites that kind of control global fiat right now see something's, they see that Web3 is coming, right? And Web3 is essentially decentralization of finance, right? And from the standpoint,
but there are people who hear decentralization of finance. What does that mean to me?
Okay, so decentralization,
does that, like, right now, what I believe that means, and correct me if I'm wrong, is like my parents, they know their local banker.
Right.
They go down there and they go to the bank and they conduct transactions through a teller, and the whole concept of like brick and mortar and the value of the brand is going to be less important than just the wallet that you have that's an app on your phone, and that banking becomes more akin to your social media experience. Is that a flavor of decentralized finance?
I think that's a flavor of what we're talking about. But basically, what we're seeing, or what's going to happen in the decentralization of finance, is that you're going to basically be closer to the assets, closer to the commodities, closer to what you want to be both purchasing and what you want to be investing in. So at the end of the day, in kind of our continuum of finance right now, which is, we're blessed in America because we have the most stable currency, other than manipulated currencies like China. But we have the most stable currency because we know a dollar is worth this. We know it's worth, 10%, 7%, 6% under Biden, worth 8% less than it was last year. But at the end of the day, what the world sees in regards to the value of the commodities or the products that we're buying, your direct connection to that is going to be a lot closer with Web3. So Web3 is decentralization of finance. It's closer proximity to the asset. It's tokenization. It's cryptocurrencies that are based on a continuum that's essentially permanent, not necessarily permanent, but permanent in regards to what the value is relative to fiat and what those commodities and purchases that you're going to make. And
I got to tell you something, man. Like, my parents in their 70s would have not known a fucking word you just said. Like they're smart people, they're wealthy people, but they wouldn't have understood any of that. So they wouldn't understand what you even mean by being closer to your assets.
Right. Okay. So
they're boomers. They own real estate.
So you think about the world. You think about, just take it back to Web 2.0. There's a centralization, or just not even Web 2.0, but just 1.0. Non-web, non-nothing.
Web 1.0 to me is hearing that little screeching sound while you hoped you could download the porn before your parents got home.
Exactly.
If or maybe you've got a different version of Web 1.0, please lay it out to me.
Okay. Not Web 1.0, WHT, or when I was little. But basically you have kind of centralized control of monitoring of your assets, right? Or centralization of servers, centralization of bankers, centralization of the Fed, centralization of banks, controlling, your ins and outs. So I got to provide, information in regards to a wire in and out. I need to, provide a credential to withdraw cash from an ATM that's an extension of my bank and where I have a deposit.
Okay, so it's decentralized finance is that what it means to be closer to your money is that you don't have to go to the bank, you don't have to go to an ATM.
Right.
That in the digital world, you can move around your wealth.
You can move around your wealth, and you can create.
So that's what everybody's talking about.
Right.
So who's going to win that race?
Who is going to win that race? I think it is.
It's crypto, right?
It's crypto. Yes, it's crypto. But it's not crypto. It's Web 3.0. So what it is it's basically it's crypto, it's tokenization, but it's the tip of the spear players that are playing the kind of the best chess with our regulators and with our Web 1.0 and predating Web 1.0 regulators.
Well, okay. So as a former congressman, what I hear from that is that there are going to be winners and losers in decentralized finance, just like there was in Web 1.0. Remember, people would have just a .com address, and the valuation on that would go crazy, right? And now in Web 3, those who purport to get you closer to those assets through crypto without having to go to banks or ATMs or brokers for stocks, right? The winners there will write the rules, and they will give the right donations to the right politicians, and they will promise the right jobs to the current regulators who one day want to go work for them, and they will wrap the apparatus of government around some particular business model.
Yeah, I think those early winners will be there, and then probably AI will win after that.
Oh, because however we as humans figure this out, there's going to be some robot that you can feed this whole thing into.
Right.
And if you build that robot, it won't be the humans who ultimately reap the reward.
Yeah, I do. Look, your assessment of that is right, because there's a kind of chasm to cross between it's like the pure altruism of actually being closer to your money, closer to what you're wanting to purchase. And we'll take a step outside.
Well, what about investment? Like, is there ever going to be a world in which people can impulse buy investment?
Absolutely.
Based on their consumer experiences or their digital experiences? What does that look like?
Absolutely. So you when we'll use a popular, again, I wear the Lululemon pants.
Wow, humble brag. You know what? We're going to dub over your voice whatever pant brand sponsors this podcast. Okay, your mouth will say Lululemon, but it'll actually be whatever.
Like Birdies or
one of those. No, you know what? I really hope. I love the, is it the bird dogs?
Bird dog. Yeah.
Yeah, I do fucking love those.
I know. Great. Like a whisking pant. It's incredible. So, all right, what's going to happen? So just in regards to Web 3.0, what you're going to be able to do is you're going to go in and you're going to buy your $128 pants from Lululemon, Bird Dog, whoever it is. And you're going to say, you know what? I love these pants so much. I'm going to, I want a khaki pair and I want, a gray pair. But instead of buying that khaki pair and gray pair, I'm just going to take the khakis today and I'm going to put 128 on the khakis and 128 into Lululemon. I'm going to, scan a QR code and I basically buy a fraction of a token. If the token's 100, 200, 500, $1,000, I'll buy a fraction of the token with the QR code. I'm going to say, these pants are so good that I want a piece of this company that's selling these pants that I love so much. And I think this token's going to be worth, $300.
What if people could have done that with Tesla? What if people who bought the first Teslas could have had, like, instead of adding on the sports package, add on $5,000 in stock, $10,000 in stock when they bought those Teslas
for a Hemplo.
Right. That would have been wild.
Absolutely. So I think that...
Does that happen anywhere now? We are in the golden age of America. President Trump is securing the border. He's got the ICE raids rolling. We're getting peace in the world. And here's the thing. If you want to go out there and slay, if you want the muscles, the energy, the riz to live your best life in America's golden age, then you want to visit our terrific new partner, Chalk. That's CHOQ.com. These guys have everything from supplements, testosterone boosters, pre-workout. And when you are able to get this full package, you want to do it with a subscription model, okay? You're not going to get this special deal on a one-time purchase. But if you use promo code FIREBRAND, you're going to get 17.76%. Well, that's 17.76% off your subscription orders. And the subscription is the way you're going to want to do it. So they've got the male vitality stack, and that is something you're going to have as part of your daily deal. So you don't want the one-time purchase on that. The subscription is key. My absolute favorite product that I use from Chalk, the Lit Powder. Okay, this stuff You can put in anything. The way Ginger whips it up for me, she works in a little almond milk, a little Greek yogurt, blends it up, and it is like the most delicious chocolate shake you ever had. It's rich, it's creamy, but with Chalk, you're not getting the additives, you're not getting the preservatives. It's terrific. And actually, on any other pre-workout you do, they've got that stuff in there. Chalk has got the Chad mode pre-workout, and I'm adding at least an additional couple sets to every workout when I lock down the Chad mode and get rolling on that. So go to chalk.com, that's CHOQ.com, enter promo code FIREBRAND. You're going to get 17.76% off your subscription order. Tell them Matt Gaetz sent you. You're going to be a stud. You're going to be an alpha. And you know what? If you're a lady and you think your guy could have a little extra pep in his step, this is a great gift. This is something that says, I care about you. They're going to love it. You can even make the lip powder the way Ginger does for your man. And you know what? Maybe there's even a leftist out there who needs a little bit of the energy supplements because they've gone beta. You will not be a beta with Chalk mode.
Does it happen anyway? It happens in unique circumstances, like the Aspen St. Regis, for instance. That's a hotel in Aspen, obviously. It's a St. Regis. It's actually sold. I don't know what portion of the equity is sold in essentially on chain or Web3. There are a certain amount of shares, maybe say it's 50% of the hotel, and that's actually sold through tokens. And what people get for those tokens, they get to brag they're an owner, whether they own, $1,000 or $1,500. I've been solicited for it multiple times, but I own, and I haven't done it.
Shit, man.
I don't go to Aspen.
I feel bad when a hotel solicits me to pay for that fucker to bring the ice.
Exactly.
I'm like, man, why don't you just have the ice machine at the end of the hall? I will go get it myself. Oh, sir, no. We'll have someone bring it. I was like, man, I just got to pay $5 for that ice.
But imagine.
But now they could be like, do you want ice and 0.0000134% of a stock?
Exactly. And so that it's not a stock, but it's a token, but it's
a token.
It's a token. So it's a token. In certain
dude, if I was
instances,
a stock trader, I would hate this so much.
Absolutely.
If I was one of these brokerage houses, I would do everything to stop this.
Absolutely. I mean, and I think that the people that will adopt it and understand,
because then the people who will win, back to the other point, is the people who build the robots, who know how to assess sentiment in a way that drives value and investment.
Absolutely. Yeah. So
will any of those people be Americans?
I think they'll be robots.
Because, everyone went wild over this TikTok thing. Oh, the Chinese built an app that can get all of our children addicted to synchronized dance moves. And you start to think about it and you say, what's unique about that is that it's aberrational.
Mm-hmm.
Meta, so many of these other major tech platforms, Amazon, they're born in the U.S.
They are born in the U.S. So
maybe the innovation around this decentralized finance is more likely to be developed here. I don't know.
Listen, I think that's why we have to, under the Trump administration, is be at the tip of the spear. Understand, actually, kind of program.
What's your confidence in that?
Listen. America has not failed at much since its early inception.
We've lost several of the last few wars.
Yeah,
basically, if we've been in the war, a war on something, that thing usually wins. Drugs, the war on drugs definitely won. The war in Afghanistan, we got beat by a bunch of goat herders. So
Vietnam didn't turn out too. No, I agree. But those are kind of outward, facing ideological, I wouldn't say experiments, but which is totally disrespectful to everybody. But they're these decisions that are made by bosses that are not necessarily the right decisions that we made. The thing about America is the gravitational pull to America it's unexplainable and it's unmatched. Everybody.
Well, hold on. Do you think that we hold on to that forever? Is that our birthright, or does that require fertilization and maintenance?
I think that what happened in this last election, I think that coupled with an adoption of Web3 and looking forward and being a nation of peace under this current administration, I think it gives us another 100 years.
Wow.
So I think there's going to be some other inflection point, in 100 years.
It's an incredibly consequential statement because with where we are on AI and space and quantum and Web3, the next 100 years is it's going to define whether or not human existence becomes multiplanetary and durable.
This is a conversation for Elon, but
I've had it with him. That's why I feel uniquely empowered for this.
For sure. Some
Elon will sit around and be like, Matt, we must become a multiplanetary species.
I agree.
And I'm like, yeah, but I'm wondering who the ATF director is going to be like next Tuesday.
Oh my God.
He's like, we must expand consciousness. And I'm like, we need 50 votes for a confirmation, bro.
Exactly. But you're being very pragmatic and focused on what's going to set us apart for the next 100 years. And
because I'm a Grundoon in this movement. I get it. I'm not one of the high thinkers. I'm just like a straight up Grundoon. Like, I'll run through a wall for you. You got to point me at the right wall, or I could run through the wrong one. But, it is exciting. And it's quite something that wherever you are on the economic ladder in America, you're going to get to be a part of this transformation.
Absolutely.
And you're actually going to get to maybe benefit for this more in that middle and lower income range because you're going to be closer to those assets. And
it is true. But it's very much global at the same time, because as much as, whether people are into Lululemon or whatever they're into, whatever the brand is or whatever, being able to be a part of that customer experience, being able to be part of that brand and like blessing the growth of that brand. The really exciting thing about us being kind of that American dream or whatever, the shining city on the hill, is the farmer in Vietnam, right? In central Vietnam that wants to, own, 1/2 of 1/2 of 1/2 of 1/2% of some brand, some Disney brand or some character or some kind of product that they use that's actually incredibly
Levi jeans.
Levi's, exactly. Levi's is a great example.
Or, a musical act that they get real into. Or a sports team they develop an association with because they get a Boston Red Sox hat.
And the difference there is that we do have a fiat that's held up, right?
That is soft power.
Yeah. So but understanding that we create those brands, we have those ideas, we have this kind of, whether it's a salad bowl or certainly not a melting pot, but a salad bowl of ideas that come here because of kind of rule of law, right? Because of democracy, because of, with all the infighting and all the headlines that we have, there is still this magnetic pull here. And what that does is that creates kind of there's an inherent and non-depreciating value of assets that are in and around and all play in our kind of ecosystem, which is the U.S. and the U.S. economy and the U.S. culture. And so that farmer in Vietnam that like is, some, serious, affiliation or admiration for Mickey Mouse and wants to buy a piece of that property, they know that relative to the Vietnamese dong or relative to the Argentinian,
it'll hold more value.
Exactly. It'll hold that value. So in the US, yes, we're obviously facing inflation. Inflation of 8% is not even relevant looking at what the Argentinians have faced over the last 30 years. Right?
Well, yeah, but they dealt with the negative impacts of a command economy at times.
Exactly. So you think about every other country in the world and all of the folks that are other than kind of fixed currencies, being able to participate. And what that does is to participate in kind of a global economy and ecosystem that we've been blessed to be a part of. It all is people, a farmer in Argentina or Vietnam investing $5 in America.
But at scale, that creates liquidity for American investment and business growth and hiring and wages that is unmatched. And I'm virulently anti-war. Mm-hmm. I think the people in my party who are most incorrect on policy are the ones who cheerlead every war for every reason.
Right.
And actually, if we become more connected in this way, not through our government and our elites, but in a decentralized way where our people are connected to other people in the world directly, making each other richer.
Correct.
That could change the economy in a really exciting way.
Yeah, I mean, there's
everybody.
There's Band-Aid solutions. Like obviously the global. I mean, Eisenhower warned about it. Kennedy got killed for it. You know, there are quick fixes in our economy, and it's usually like military industrialization, right? It does cause inflation, but what it does is
if our military made stuff that worked. Unfortunately, the contractors, they're there to serve the generals who will one day work for the contractors.
Right.
And I saw
it's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
But this other thing you're talking about is the future.
Correct.
And it's and by the way, it's easy to see why people who were in all of the inner circles and the highest echelons of Washington and everything were very interesting in what you had to say about stuff. I want to move away from the economy into something else that I think you and I kind of share uniquely. Mm-hmm. And it's when you're under the gun. Mm-hmm. I, for years, dealt with people investigating every crazy, fantastical story everyone made up about me. I remember wondering every time the door knocked or the doorbell rang, whether it was like a subpoena or were people going to come throw me in shackles. And from that time, it's like your sleep is never as good.
No.
Food doesn't taste as good. The relationships you have with other people degrade and suffer. Mm-hmm. And there were times when I would wake up and I would be so exhausted, it almost felt like I never went to bed.
Right.
And you'd like, man, I got to face a day like feeling physically exhausted because all night there was no respite. It was just the torment of my own thoughts about who could be a new enemy emerge that day or what could be a new power center directed against me. And, coming out on the other side of that, feeling the vindication, I do believe part of my reason to be on the planet Earth is to interact with people who also go through that. And I offer everyone two things, and this was the guiding principle for me and my wife. One, God never gives us anything we cannot handle. And I am no expert in the Bible, but it seems to be a book rather littered with the stories of people who feel as though what they are being presented with could never be overcome.
Right.
But then there's something about this unique human experience where you do overcome.
Yeah.
And so one is God doesn't give us anything we can't handle. And then two is don't let the process be the punishment. Yeah. Because so often I see people who at the end of the day are vindicated, who did right more than wrong, who did right in the absence of wrong. And their lives have been torn asunder, their assets are vanquished, their families are splintered. And even when you win, the process is the punishment. And so for me and my wife, we're like, look, man, whatever's going on around us, we'll still go have a picnic. We'll still, have amazing time together. So I just wonder, as a fellow dude under the gun and me kind of bearing what that was like for me, is that similar to your experience? Without going, I don't give a shit about any of the details. Yeah. It's just about like the core thing of knowing that the most powerful in the world, government in the world at one point would like to deprive you of your liberty.
Yeah. I mean, you said I don't know if I can encapsulate it as eloquently as you just preached, but I don't know. I've gone, and not a study of the Bible. I've gone a little bit Greek with the Stoics. I believe that I do believe, that the struggles that we go through define us as men. And that's one that I kind of stick to. And I try to teach my children. But it is it's an overwhelming cross to bear, but at the end of the day, you have to also like think about the less fortunate. So I think there's like I just, I look at Instagram and, see a guy shoveling coal with one leg today. And I'm like, think about your day. And like, there's like little stuff like that just has to keep reminding you, it's
that guy was AI, Devon. That guy doesn't exist. That was an AI video you watched of the
Jesus
man.
Christ.
No, but I think it's interesting. So you're saying you look to relative struggle.
I look to relative struggle to kind of justify my existence and why I'm here on my planet. And like even, today I look to like my children and their accomplishments. And I think about my father and my parents and all they wanted me to be and all my dad wanted me to be was better than him. And I say, I just want my boys to be better. I want my girl to be better. I want my kids to be better. And I just like, I'm so thankful for my wife for keeping the family together. I mean, it's hard to, because I'm still in it and I'm still fighting, and to kind of like try and reflect back. The rest is still unwritten for me. So I don't want to like, I can't say that I've found the right answers.
No, I know that. I mean?
Like
I also know the space when you're in the cloud and you are trying to find the horizon.
Right.
And there are times when that is not like a straight up linear progression. You think you found it, but that's not really the horizon.
No.
But you know what? I get the whole concept of family, because as tough as like everything I went through was on my family, we continued to remind each other that grit and toughness and durability was the defining characteristic of our family.
Yeah.
That actually we kind of like could bear down on it. Like, right. I know other people like that who are just so built for the battle that when the outside knives are pointed towards you, it draws you together in a way that can actually be a blessing.
Yeah.
I view it as a blessing that in my toughest moments, like I have no question now that in my toughest moments, my family, they are there.
Yeah.
They are there and they are with me. And even when they have disagreements with me, like they're in the fight, and so that's going to be there for you.
Yeah.
It's going to be there for everybody who watches this and feels like shit, man. Like, it doesn't have to be the DOJ chasing you around.
No.
It can be a creditor. It can be a shitty situation at work. It can be a move you have that you don't want to do. But when you feel under the gun and your family rallies around you, it sucks to be under the gun. It sucks that you had to be there. But man, that feeling that your family is like, we are going to make it through this thing together. It does become a blessing.
It is
that and lifting.
that and lifting. But I just have to say, like, I am so. Though a fighter, though a lifter, though like everything I've done is like, athletics were first in regards to, being a mental metaphor for your life. I'm just like, as a person, I'm non-confrontational. I'm a person that wants to work things out.
You seem analytical.
Yeah, I'm definitely analytical, but
I'm way more confrontational.
You're way more confrontational than me. 100%. I feel like if I had like half the courage of you, I'd be way better off.
Well, it's not a question of courage at times. I mean, at times people are confrontational as an act of cowardice. Not me, but there are others who they lack a certain confidence in a viewpoint, and so they will lash out.
Right. And I certainly don't. I don't lack the confidence. I feel like there's like humanity in everyone, and almost even with like something as like, like Death Star is like the DOJ. It's like this Death Star. You were, the president's first pick to be the head of it. I just was like, you guys don't like in like trying to rationalize. I was trying to rationalize myself. I'm like, you guys understand? I didn't do anything. I didn't.
Yeah, no.
And it's like it's like a wild, like the wild feeling, and like then like you have to like explain to first your family, then you get them on board, and then there's FOIAs, and then there's investigations, and then people realize that it's not true, and it's like
that's actually what makes the sleep impossible.
Yeah,
because you go to bed and you don't know when you wake up what's the new lie you have to combat. What's the new crazy, fantastical story that you have to, swat down. And there's just no human being that doesn't feel the weight of that over time. But I do believe it builds strength. And
it does.
One thing we know about humanity is like we're built for second and third acts. Like they had Donald Trump so counted out, and this guy roars back. And in a way, his campaign became a metaphor for people who felt down and out at some point in life, whose circle and friends had abandoned them at some level, but who found the grit and the determination to get there. Yeah. And I have said this before, but will again. I think Donald Trump should pardon you for the truth you told when others were unwilling to. You have acknowledged that not every choice you've made was a good one. Not every choice I've made was a good one. That does not always necessitate the application of criminal law if you didn't break the law.
Right.
And I know in your case, a crazy legal web that people can go check out on Tucker Carlson laid before you. But I was more interested in, how a guy with the talents and viewpoint you have ends up in this world, and then how someone who ended up there would think about the future, and then just the pure human element that there's just not a lot of conversations between two people that would exist like between you and me.
Right.
And I think that it's the same book, but we're just in different chapters.
Yep.
And I know exactly what it's like to be in the chapter you're in. And I would just tell you, man, God doesn't give us anything we can't handle, and don't let the process be the punishment, and count on the terrific people in your life and in your family to sustain that. And, as our greatest president likes to say, the best is yet to come.
Thank you, brother.
Thanks
I really appreciate it, man.